I don't have to find you. We're missing right now. Is there a chair?
It's another Jason. Yeah, another Jason. Jason Phillips, yeah.
Jada ain't here no more, is she? Jada left, I think.
Yeah, Jada became an official employee. She was a contractor, and she became an employee.
Yeah. Yeah, she did say that.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Yeah, do you want to,
Okay.
Samara, why don't you kick off the meeting in lieu of a chair?
Okay, so call to order this meeting of the Human Relations Commission at 6:06 p.m., May 20th. Roll call. Commissioners Mina Edmondson. Here. John Eister.
Here.
Rabia Khan.
Here.
Madeline Torres. Anu Banks.
Here.
Kevin Watkins.
Here.
Karen Crosby.
Present.
Jason Query.
Here.
Jason Phillips. We have quorum to start.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for having me here, and above all, thank you for your service to our community. This is a very, very important role that you play here in essentially being the quasi-judicial panel for the Human Relations Commission, and that's one of the things that I wanted to come and talk to you about today. So for many years, the Human Relations Commission did not have an executive director. So essentially, this commission filled the role of executive director. That means oversight of budget things, oversight of staff, and in fact, both the ordinance and the policies seem pretty clear about what the roles are supposed to be when you have an executive director. Less clear when you don't have an executive director. So what I believe has been happening over the years, and it all makes makes a lot of sense, is that the commission fell into the role of the management of the office of the Human Relations Commission. In fact, and I was hoping that the solicitor was here to talk about this because she could probably more clearly talk about the specific parts of the ordinance and the policies. But I'm just going to kind of sum up where we came to after many discussions about policies and procedures with the city solicitor. And that is that the executive director and staff fall under the administration. We can't have part of the city government. The commission is not set up like an authority, like a separate nonprofit virtually. You are set up as a judicial body to assist in the work of the Human Relations Commission. No, I'm pretty sure I'm right. No. Just kidding. It doesn't. It basically doesn't work when you have oversight of non-city staff over top of city staff. So they are the staff of the administration of the city of York. And the task of this commission in ordinance is very specific about you being a judicial body to oversee the hearings, the complaints, the concerns that the HRC staff brings before you. You are an independent body to really evaluate the concerns that have been legitimized by the work of the intake specialist, the investigator, and the executive director. So I just wanted to clarify that because there seems to have been some confusion over the years as we went from a transfer from having no executive director in many, many years to having an executive director. So just to be clear, if there are concerns about any activities of the executive director, then I am the person that you report to. And if the executive director has concerns, the executive director reports to me. She is essentially a director of the staff of the administration. Having said that, I hope that you will participate in all activities that are required as a board of hearing concerns. However, I have one major request for you, and that is that you act as the ambassadors, as actively participating in the work of getting the word out about the commission. And this isn't a requirement, this is a request. But if you believe in the mission, which is why I believe you are all here, there are people out there that don't know about the mission. There are people out there that don't know that you are here and the staff is here to stand up for them when they are being discriminated against. And there are plenty of opportunities for you to represent the Human Relations Commission upon request of the executive director. So that is what I ask of you tonight, that basically the two roles that you have, the two major roles, and there is a third I'm going to mention, but really to stand up and represent when you have time. Again, not a job requirement, but when you have time, please assist them in representing at public functions, when there are times of concern in the city, when there are protests, when there are whatever it may be, when you think the name of the HRC should be out there, that people should know more about your mission, and you have time in your lives. I know you all have very busy lives, but this is what I'm asking of you. Also, the budget of the Human Relations Commission staff, because you're not spending any money, they're spending the money. That is part of the budget process of the city of York. And that budget comes to us. Now, I will say, and I've discussed with the executive director, because I do want this to be inclusive of your thoughts and ideas, because you're all sitting here because of your respected positions in the community and your ability to represent all of us, that prior to budget season from the administration and the vote from council, which would be approximately in August, that the executive director present a plan, an annual plan, and an annual budget, so that you can present that at that time, or you can have your input at that time and approve that at that time. So those are the three roles. I think that, having said that, to talk about budget issues, I think you're all aware of some of the push and pull that has occurred with the budget. The budget for the commission is a one-time, once-a-year thing. It's not oversight of the monthly expenses. Again, this is not an independent nonprofit or an authority. The budget is passed, and then the oversight of those expenses would then fall under the administrative tasks. That's really what I have for you today. Is there any question? Are there any questions of that? I'm feeling like I'm relieving some of the work of the committee. Oh, one other thing, and I had discussed this, as far as the meetings, it does not say in your ordinances or anything where you must have a monthly meeting. So this I would let to the commission and staff to discuss whether or not you want to come together, because I know, again, everybody's doing other good work out in the community. If the commission and staff want to determine to have meetings when needed, when appropriate, that is not anything that concerns the administration. My concern is, number one, that you are the judiciary body for this organization, and you are the ones determining when it is appropriate to find offense with actions against our citizens, our visitors, etc. Is that?
Clear, Mayor, it's not our purview how that money's spent.
Only at the time that the budget is passed. Yes, it's redundant and unnecessary for the commission to be approving things that are actually under the purview of the administration. Are there any other questions or comments?
I have a question. Is this because of what happened in the last meeting?
No,
Were-
it is because of,
clarification?
it is, no, I went back and watched quite a few meetings, actually. And I also reread the ordinance and the procedures. I really spent a lot of time trying to figure out what is going on here. But that is part of it, because the commission was acting as a board of directors, overseeing monthly expenditures, approving or disapproving monthly expenditures. And it's really not in the ordinance, and in my opinion and in the solicitor's opinion, not the appropriate work of the commission. If you were set up as a separate authority or something like that, you know, having those powers, then that would be the case. But that's not the case for the commission. And as I said, so you get to approve a plan and say, you know, yes, this is what I expect. This is what I agree with the mayor that I want to see these folks do over the next year. And then it's up to me, because I have to approve expenses. It's up to me. It's up to the business administrator. You know, we have a process for approving expenses and determining whether or not they fit within a given budget. And we do that for all departments. Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
At this time, as the operating person on the nominating committee, I would like to take nominations for an interim chair for the commission through August, when the new appointees will be selected and new nominations will be made for the coming year. So do we have any nominations for the interim chair for the Human Relations Commission? Oh, I'm sorry, Jason.
I would like to nominate Commissioner Mina Emerson.
And I would like to nominate Anu Banks.
Any other nominations?
I would like to nominate a new Banks also.
I don't hear any other nominations. I am willing to serve if selected. Anu wanted to confirm that you are willing to serve if selected.
Yeah, I'll serve.
Okay. Can you do a roll call, Samira, so that each one of us are able to place our vote?
Mina Edmondson,
Mina Edmondson.
John Eister,
Mina Edmondson.
Rabia Khan,
Mina Edmondson.
Anu Banks,
No vote.
Kevin Watkins,
A new Banks.
Karen Crosby,
Anu Banks.
Jason Query,
Mina Emerson.
Right now we have 4 in favor of Mina, 3 in favor of Anu.
Are we ready to accept that nomination and that vote for the interim chair of the City of York Human Relations Commission? I think that's the way the vote went, that we can go with that. And I thank you for your trust in me for over the coming months, the next few months, over the summer, as any needs, especially those judicial needs, come up, that I will be able to assist in them and call upon fellow commissioners as needed to make those decisions. Thank you. I guess the meeting has been called to order. The next item on our agenda is Executive Director Toomey, who's going to be sharing with us some of the role of the HRC.
I'm gonna come over there because I can't stand sitting when I'm talking, so.
Thank you, Mayor.
So I can't tell if that's working or not. My takeaway, no?
It
Okay.
seems like it, but yeah.
Yeah, my takeaway from the vote is that sooner or later we're going to have a chair and an assistant chair. So there's a good takeaway here as we go forward. Not to put anything in anybody's head, by the way, but I figured I would just put that out there. All right, did you get your question answered about why now?
No.
Okay. I want you to know that Brett, who is our solicitor, and I have been talking about policies and procedures since last fall, because one of the things that did not jive from her perspective with regard to how funding was done or how the budgets were done is it didn't make sense from a legal perspective and from a system perspective to have volunteers and not staff oversee budgets. It didn't make sense. Didn't make sense to have access. So that conversation, just so you know, has been in play for well over 6 months, which is why I kept saying, please talk to the business admin. Please talk to the business admin, because this had been an ongoing issue. Well, now it's May, so it's been 9 months. Okay, it came to a head, but it's been ongoing. Does that get you a little closer?
Sure.
No, I want you to have the information that you want.
I'm fine.
Okay, I'm going to go with that then. One of the things, and I also want to clarify something that the mayor said with regard to scheduling. One of the other things, and what you need to know is that citywide, all departments have been asked to update their policy and procedure, because some are still having women wear skirts at a certain length where their ankles cannot be seen in our current policy and procedure. So there is across the board in the city updates for policy and procedure, including HRC. So it's not just HRC that's looking at policy and procedure. It is just across the board. So that being said, we are going to see a number of tweaks as we go. Not the least of which gives you a break, is not needing to meet every month. And here's why. According to Brett, and I realize I'm quoting somebody who's not here, who hopefully will be with us next time. Flower, I'm sorry. According to Brett, the reason for gathering is if there needs to be a vote on something, or if there needs to be an update of information that requires your attention because of action that you need to take. So having you come in every single month is not necessarily necessary, all right? The other thing that is critical that is in our policy and procedure is that any training that is done for the commission goes through the executive director. So I know, for example, that Anu, Kevin, Jason even, and John, there haven't been, yes, Madeline and now Jason, there hasn't been any training in the full year that I've been here. And I think that that's problematic, because here we are telling you what your role is going to be or what you're responsible for, but not giving you an idea of what that even looks like. Okay? So what you're going to notice is that tonight I'm going to do something very, very brief. It's an introduction, because I know that we're going to have to revisit it if we get closer to doing a case, right? And on top of that, we also need to do other types of training. we need to do updates on any type of legislation that is changing either in the city that affects folks who are on the margin, or who are often victims of discrimination. I'm going to give you an example of what that looks like. So one of the things that the Human Relations Commission is doing right now in terms of working with both community and economic development and also affordable housing is looking at a way to put forward legislation that becomes part of our ordinance that identifies source of income as a protected class. So let me tell you what that looks like from housing. I don't want to digress too much. In the city of York and in the state of Pennsylvania, if I am going to rent a house, and Rabia, you're going to rent or rent an apartment. Right now, statistically, in order for a person to rent a one-bedroom apartment to where you can pay your rent on a regular basis, you have to make $40,000 in the state of Pennsylvania. Okay? So if you and I go to a landlord or an apartment complex, and your salary demonstrates that you are making $40,000, you're golden. If my salary shows $32,000 with a subsidy of $12,000, be that SSI, be that any other government subsidy, landlords are allowed to reject me and say that that is not a source of income that we take into consideration. All right, so that person applying for the same apartment is dismissed. Legislation right now that we are trying to put forward with the council is to make that illegal in the city of York, so that any legal form of income, and subsidies are legal forms of income, cannot be discriminated against, thus making it better for more folks to be able to access the same type of housing and not discriminate against because of income or the type of income. Does that make sense? Go ahead.
Is that true? I mean, is that true that you won't accept government-funded income from a person? So I could make $80,000 a year and lose my job tomorrow.
That's right.
Where would that leave me?
So let's look, let's look at the underlying premise that's happening. Okay? And I'm gonna just cut right through it. The assumption is that if you are accepting government subsidies, you are a group of those people that landlords don't want to rent to. Whether that's a government subsidy that's put forward in terms of helping you out because you have a large family and you have a lower income, or whether it's Section 8. So what I call it is modern day redlining. It is a way to avoid renting to people who are on federal or state assistance. Because what you asked is perfectly logical. Robbie's making 40 grand on a job, but if you lose your job, you're not safe anymore. So really, we're looking at the other things that are going on with regard to the types of discrimination that are happening. It's getting played out as income, but there's a whole other system in play that is setting it up so that landlords can choose who they're going to rent to and who they're not going to rent to.
They can still do that, though. And, I mean, a seller can do the same thing, too.
It's against the law.
Well, but we know it happens.
That's why we're here. You're not wrong.
But it's not against the law today, you say.
It's not against the law today. A landlord can discriminate against someone because of income.
So, I have a comment now. That's why I really do feel as though the monthly meetings are necessary in order to keep the, the commissioners engaged and knowledgeable about what is going on.
That's fair.
What type of legislation is on the board to be passed. I really feel as though we should do that, or why are we here?
That's
it's like
my
you don't
point.
want us to know. You know, we just are called in when it's time for a vote. I don't like the feeling of that.
So I don't disagree with you, Karen. If that is something that you would choose to be part of, that is fine. I want to be very straightforward that the messaging before tonight has been y'all are too busy to be here.
No.
Okay?
If we are, then we should get off the board.
I'm not disagreeing, but I want to be very clear. Like I don't want to beat around the bush. This is not about keeping information from you. Quite frankly, I want you to have the information. And you know as well as I do that a lot of information that we attempted to provide, we got diverted. I'm just going to put it there.
I just know one thing, I'm trying to be transparent here, but, for instance, I mean, I didn't know that we had a commissioner who resigned. I never received an email stating that that person resigned. I found it out another way. So.
Are you talking about Jada or Mark?
I'm talking about Mark.
Because he sent an email to everyone.
I really didn't get it. So maybe there was some type of glitch. I didn't receive it. And I did go through all the emails that come from you, Samara, just to make sure that I didn't get it. Because I never received it.
Yeah.
That's a good point. It should have come out. Probably.
It should have maybe come from her, because, I mean, we all get a lot of emails, but I missed it. I didn't get it. And it could have gone to my junk because I don't really get emails from Mark. You know what I'm saying? So it could have gone to my junk. Whereas if it came from Samara, I'm sure I would have received it. I really didn't get the email.
I believe you. I mean, it got sent. We were all on the same list.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
I sent it as a reply to one of the emails that I sent all of you.
Yeah.
So your name.
I get it, and I'll go through mine again. I really will. I don't mean to hold up the meeting with this, but I didn't get it. So I just really think that we need to be clear on communication. But I feel as though if we do want to serve on this board, we need to be more engaged in the process. I would like to hear more about the cases that are going on, since we don't have to worry ourselves with the
But Karen, we can't tell you about the cases. That is the fundamental thing that happens. We can give you statistics and we can give you outcomes without names, but you are supposed to remain in the dark and objective until, when it comes to cases, that is the role of the commissioner. That you don't get information about cases. So when I would come and say, hey, we have a big case coming up and I want to let you know, that's all we can say to you. Okay. I just want, and to your point, this is part of the information that I think you all haven't had, which hasn't been fair to understand what it is your role is. Because when we do get to a place where adjudication needs to happen, that is huge. But the commissioners are left in the dark until the very last minute so as to provide objective outcome.
I sat in on a hearing before, so I know that. So, I mean, I did do that. I did go through the process with one case, so,
Okay. What I would like to do, if you don't have any other questions on what we're talking about right now, is I want to kind of give you an outline. You all received another copy of 185. I know digitally they've been sent out. You don't have to. I'm going to ask you not to go through it right now because I want to just kind of focus on some highlights. Yes.
I'm feeling a strong opinion at this point in time that the commissioners are not comfortable with not having a monthly meeting. Can we look at that and make a decision in the coming year rather than us saying at this point?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to make sure, because I've heard a strong opinion that we
Absolutely.
meet, and it's, to be honest, it's easier to meet if you've got it on your calendar than to have a meeting called.
I honestly want you to know that came from a place of recognizing that we don't vote on a regular basis and trying to honor what we heard as busy schedules. Okay? That is in no way designed to leave you out of anything other than the obvious. Okay? But
That's a discussion that can happen
absolutely.
next session.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because quite frankly, I'd like you to know what we're doing because I want you to be as involved as you want to be. So let me give you a little bit of information. If you already have it then either feel free to jump in if I miss something or prompt other questions or other examples. That would be really great. So 185 is designed specifically as a legal document. It is a law, and it is designed to investigate discrimination towards protected classes in the city of York. Okay? When we're talking about discrimination, we are talking about specific behaviors, behaviors that cause others harm by either disparate treatment, by a pattern of microaggressive behavior, by loss of wages, loss of job, being treated differently in the workplace, at school, in housing, in public accommodations, and employment. Do you know what the protected classes are for the city of York?
There's 12, right?
Come on.
Race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation,
And identity.
religion, familial status.
Come on.
I think you
You
got
gonna
that.
go.
I think you
I was an
got that.
investigator, I should know.
Disability or ability.
Right, age,
Age.
hair, yes. Crown Act.
The Crown Act. I believe we got them. And support animals. Thank you. Support animals and people who train support animals. Okay? People cannot be discriminated if they fall into any of those classes. If we add source of income to that, then that becomes another protected class. But the way we identify it is that you could not be discriminated against because of your income if you have legal income, and subsidies are legal income. I will tell you that the Pennsylvania Human Relations Commission is thrilled that we're on top of this because they're anticipating that this will start to influence Lebanon and Lancaster to also follow suit. Okay? You with me so far?
The sexual orientation, is that also in the state? I thought the state did not have that.
The state has it's funny because PHRC has it as part of their ordinance that they will investigate. The state does not. The state does not have specific protections for LGBTQIA folk. Okay?
We do.
We do. The city of York does. And PHRC does. They will also, even though they represent this, they will follow that.
How about the county?
No, not at all. The county has full reign to discriminate against a variety of areas. And so we have seen... They don't have an HRC. They don't have any mechanism in place to review any type of discrimination. We are the mechanism. People can come to us, and then we can write up a report. 50% of our complainants are county complainants. We'll write up a report and we'll send it to PHRC or EEOC, depending on who can do a better job for them. Okay? And we are very intentional about the reports that we write. If we're sending something up to PHRC, we make sure that there's prima facie, that we have identified that this is a legitimate complaint and it should be investigated. We send it right up to their person that does intake, and we say, Michael, this is what we need to do, and he bumps HRC to the front of the line, okay? Because we're putting together reports that carry weight, and that's really critical, all right? So the other thing that you need to know before I get into process and procedure is that we have investigated a number of cases this year, and they can look like a lot of different things. Somebody could come in with a complaint for employment, and it could be a discrimination complaint in terms of race. And then as we start to, I have a case in mind, and it's been resolved. As that case comes forward and we realize that there is enough evidence to pursue this case, if it is a county case, we compile all that evidence and get it to PHRC. If it's a city case, then we start an investigation. We first file the complaint. In that complaint, we list all of those particular bullet points that identify or lead to the conclusion that this person has been discriminated against because of race. We file that. Samada takes care of that, filing that, and then it is delivered to the respondent. Be that a person, an HR, a board, okay, or an entire workplace. They have 30 days to respond to the complaint. If they need more time, they can request it, but that is up to us to determine whether or not we will grant them that extra time, depending on a number of things. They, they have to respond to that complaint by going through every point that we have named and disputing it, or not, or agreeing with it. You can imagine that they have an attorney, and they will dispute most of those points that we've put forward. And then the fun begins. Once that happens, we offer mediation. Both Miguel and Samara have been certified this year as conflict resolution and mediator. And so we now have the ability, and I have that in my background, we have the ability now to provide mediation, whether that is both parties being in the room or aside. While that is going on, it is not uncommon for us to then also start an investigation, which means we start interviewing witnesses who perhaps the complainant has said, you need to talk to this person, and this person. So we start to gather evidence. Okay, again, I have a specific case in mind. Mediation may or may not happen. Now, according to HUD, HRC has one spot in the whole process where they offer mediation. HUD, from a housing perspective, says mediation should be offered all along the way. And that is a good common practice and a good best practice to have. Because at any point, there can be one piece of evidence that comes forward that allows us to go back to the table and say to both parties, we now know this, we should try mediation again. Mediation is attempted or it's turned down. Then the investigation begins. We start to gather all the information from the various parties. Their attorney oftentimes is doing the same. Now, what's different for us from PHRC is I'm not an attorney. I have Brett Flower that I can go to and run things by, but when it comes down to being able to really get into some of the legal jargon and information, I don't always have it, depending on the extensiveness of the case. So this particular case that I'm thinking about, that was an employment case, that was clearly discriminatory against someone who was of color, we suggested that they also file with the EEOC, because the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has way more resources. And depending on the size of the case, because they're federal, they are going to get a much bigger settlement than we could ever think of with regard to what we can do here. Plus, they can move faster, they have more investigators, and they basically have more pull. So in this particular case to which I'm referring, we did refer to EEOC. And what they did was they took all of our evidence, they took all of our witness reports, they took our case, we gave it to them, took our complaint, and then applied it to what they were doing and ended up getting a settlement for $200,000 for this particular person who started with us. Now, let's say that they don't go with us. That they do go with us. What happens next, thank you. Thank you very much, Miguel. What happens next is we try mediation doesn't work, we start the investigation. So, along that process, we then have a fact-finding meeting where we exchange evidence and information with the attorney or with the party that is the respondent. And we let them know just exactly what we have. So another case during mediation, we did just that. We made it very clear to this particular, is a different case, that we had information laid out. So even though they had sent back their complaint and they said they disputed everything, when we met, we were able to say, well, we know this about the service dog that didn't get the okay from HR. We know that you didn't do this. We know you didn't do this. How does mediation sound now? Oh, mediation sounds pretty good. So we were able to mediate with those particular individuals and come away with a $15,000 settlement for that particular individual. If mediation doesn't work, if we've exchanged enough evidence where it is clear that we have a case that should go forward, we now have to have a hearing. Usually, at this point, the commissioner will appoint a hearing commissioner from the commission. that person now is filled in on what the case is about and leads the meeting with both parties, pretty much, very much like a courtroom, gathering information from both sides, weighing out where the evidence lies. And when that hearing is over, that person now goes back to the commission and shares the information with the commission. The commission then votes on whether or not, this is where the adjudication comes in, whether or not to find in favor of the complainant or the respondent. And if the commission finds in favor of the complainant, the commission then determines what the reparations will be. That is binding. Okay? Now, along this process, if we are attempting to get information, we have in our back pocket subpoena power. We can subpoena information from the respondent, okay, and from witnesses who do not wish to be interviewed. We have that power, okay? So when this goes to adjudication, this is then when the commission now learns about the case. There's still a level of anonymity, but they now have the facts in front of them to make a determination.
But it's not all commissioners, it's a select.
It can be all commissioners. It can be, except for the person that was the hearing commissioner. Or if there's any conflict of interest, that if I'm going after your employment, Jason, because somebody came and filed a complaint against your employer, you're out of it. You have to recuse yourself from that particular, okay? So this is what happens in terms of the whole process, okay? It's what happens.
Formula for how you set the amount of like the settlement?
You usually ask the complainant what they're after. So we've had a couple of mediation. We've had a mediation that's come through where the complainant didn't want anything except to be allowed back into the establishment that he had been banned from, and wanted staff in that establishment to have diversity training. That was it. We've had others come forward with like off the chart, but then go to mediation and are able to work with whomever they're working with mediation for a settlement and determine. Because the longer, these can get drawn out for 2 years easily, right? And
I was wondering if there was a formula that the commission sets for if you were terminated from employment and you made this much, then you get.
that when somebody is having difficulty determining what they want their prayer of relief to be, we often start with a salary. If they have lost their job in a job that they expected to have for 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, then they can have a starting point. If there's pain and suffering, if there is a loss of reputation, if there's been shame involved, like there are a whole bunch of manners. And that's why having Brett is really critical, because she has a really good idea of what would be a reasonable ask. Because if you go too high, right? And it's also critical, too, to know, we need to know, for example, when our case is above our pay grade, right? When somebody comes in and their case is just so horrible that they are really deserving of more than we could probably get them, because they need good legal background, and that's not us. Then we make that referral out. And we've made a number of referrals, both to, PHRC because of jurisdiction, but we've made a couple of referrals out to EEOC. And we know that they're legitimate by the quickness by which EEOC takes them on, because they move fast, and usually they can have a waiting list up to 6 months. So even though we don't necessarily go the distance with cases, how we present these cases to EEOC and PHRC determine how quickly these folks get assistance. So you can see it's a long process. You can see why you don't get a lot of information on the cases. We can kind of go back and share some of them with you. I can go back and give you names of closed cases now. You can have those closed cases because one of the things that HRC has is publishing power or publishing rights. And I talked with Brett about what that would look like, and that can be interesting in York, where the city is so small. You know, especially if the respondent that you've been working with turns out to be someone who really does want to make a correction to bad behavior. You don't necessarily want to publish about them, whereas somebody else who's being a complete louse, you want to say too much, right? So we're still trying to navigate the best way to publish outcome that won't harm HRC, right? And won't harm respondents who have really worked hard to make things right with the complainant that brought the complaint forward.
Do you still have that publishing power if you transferred that case to EEOC?
We do. We have to wait until it's adjudicated. Okay, we could do a random anonymous. We referred these many cases to EEOC. We can't name anything.
So even if they get a financial settlement, and that, like their term says,
We are not bound by any NDA that a client signs with an offending body. That's from our solicitor, because we wanted to find out, and we are not bound. So we can publish that. Yeah. Questions? So you got it all memorized.
do I get a prize for naming most of them?
Say again?
Do I get a prize for naming most of them?
I think you do.
Get an extra piece of candy.
I think you do. Thank you. I know you're talking to her, but that's okay. I took the compliment. No, I know you're talking to her. No. Here's the other thing is that, depending on where you are, not all human relations commissions have the same protected classes. For example, so source of income is one of those areas that are Denver, California, New York, Virginia, Maryland. There are 4 states so here's just to give you a preview of what we're thinking. There are 4 states in the United States that make it illegal to turn away Section 8. So in other words, what it says is if you are a landlord or developer or whatever, if you have this many units, this percentage has to be made available for Section 8. Only 4 states in the country put that down. Okay, so I named the source of income. The Section 8, I believe, are New York, Maryland, California. It's Denver, though. It's not the whole state of Colorado. Yeah, that's the difference. So source of income can land in different jurisdictions. Statewide, it's different. Okay? I think it might be Virginia, but don't quote me because I just don't remember. I remember Maryland because they're next door and I want to steal what they did so that. No, there are many more cities that have a source of income. So Philadelphia and Pittsburgh have variations on a theme when it comes to source of income. So the wording might be different. Denver, there are many more cities across the country that have source of income. The idea of doing source of income here is a stepping stone to then trying to get Section 8 for the city so that it becomes illegal to turn away Section 8 if you have a certain number of units. Because currently, some people can get Section 8, but they can't find a place to go because landlords can turn them away. Do you know why? because the standards for Section 8 inspections are way higher than city code enforcement. And so what happens is, in order to become a Section 8 apartment, a Section 8 housing unit, you have to meet higher standards, which improves quality of life and places where people can live. And so a lot of cities don't want to do it. A lot of landlords don't want to do it because they don't want to have to raise and keep up with their codes. So we've brought this forward to the chair of council just to get a feel, and they are very much in tune with both SOI and down the road Section 8. That is literally the Reader's Digest version, and I think we're all relatively old enough to know what I'm talking about, of 185 and the responsibilities and the roles of commissioners. Any questions? Concerns? I'm sorry? You're welcome. When we come back in the fall, one of the things that we will be implementing as we go forward, and if we're meeting, we'll weave them into our monthly meetings, are different types of training. So what does anti-discrimination look like? What does anti-bias look like? It is going to be really critical for us to take a look at all of these, and so we're going to do these trainings so that we are all as equipped as possible to provide objective adjudication should we get to that space. Good? Okay. That's all we have for this evening. I'm sorry? Okay. As we go forward, we're going to tweak the agenda in order so that it can become at least more streamlined in order for you to have the information that you would like to have, but also to be able to move us through so that we are respecting your time and that we are spending time on information that would be helpful. Okay? Okay.